welcome to the January edition of January 2021 edition of Geospatial Unleashed. We're so thankful to put 2020 to bed and look forward to a new and exciting year and new content, and to continue on this incredible geospatial momentum that we're experiencing in the St. Louis region. So hopefully you've noticed we've changed the time up a little bit, moved those up a couple hours to give you an opportunity to attend these during your work hours. We understand we're trying to be sensitive to the Zoom fatigue that we're all feeling as we come up on the 1-year anniversary of this. But we do think it's important that we continue to bring meaningful geospatial content and keep that momentum going. And certainly there is an incredible amount of activity going on in the St. Louis region, and I'll talk about a few of those that we have going on here at T-Rex and the Geospatial Innovation Center after our panel discussion. So, with that, we're continuing our series to highlight the first ever Arch Grant cohort in the geospatial field. Hopefully you tuned in December 2020 to hear Ali Al-Jabri talk about his exciting work with QUEMA. So good stuff, a lot of great questions and a lot of great content from Ali. So this month we're going to continue that series with our second term of these. So really excited to have Byron Porter with us today from Hum Industrial. Byron and I had met each other early on in my tenure here as the Geospatial Program Director. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll start the discussion with Byron. So as I mentioned, Byron, I met you early on when I came over from NGA to T-Rex, and did a lot of talk about geospatial data and technology. But can you share with them, I know you shared with me your background. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. And it's been great. I think it has been a year or so, Mark, since we first connected. And you've kind of helped me get a feel for this, because my background is not geospatial at all. And I feel like I maybe know 1% more than I did a year ago for the amount of tools and technology that's there. It's pretty stunning, and we're excited for some of what we can do with it. My background's in engineering. I got a degree from BYU out in Utah in chemical engineering, and I promptly did very little with that, at least on the chemistry side of things. I'm from Central Illinois, and I went back home and worked after school with Archer Daniels Midland, ADM, the big grain and ag company. And I was an engineering manager there at their largest soy processing plant for several years. And so that's kind of that was kind of where I cut my teeth and got some experience with what it takes to run industrial business, run a process. And I think really just to understand an operation. How do you take something and turn it into something else and ship it to a customer and do that very cost effectively and do that safely, and had a blast doing that. But decided to in 2018 and get my MBA at WashU, and had no intention of going the startup path other than maybe possibly working for a startup. But forces pulled me in that direction, and I was always looking to run my own show. And now here I am. I've been working on this for a little more than 2 years now. We've started Hum. At least I had the idea for Hum December 2018, and kind of been going after it ever since. So now we're got some exciting opportunities, and happy to share more about that.
Great, and great school BYU is. I mean, it's not the Ohio State University, but hey, not everybody can get in there. So, but anyway, so this is your first entrepreneurial experience. So what really encouraged you to found a company that's focused in the railroad industry?
Yeah, I think my engineering nature got the better of me. You know, as an engineer, you look at problems and you think there's got to be a better way of doing this. Why are we beating our head against the wall and doing the same old, same old? And when it came to rail, I spent time working on an off shift. Working nights in the rail yard. I was a supervisor for a crew of guys, and we bring rail cars in and load them up and ship them out. And being out there when it was -20 and throwing switches that are frozen, you kind of, I think that's good experience to understand, how boots on the ground really have to approach a job. And that kind of stayed with me. But I would look and see, real seasoned operators and superintendents in my plant who had been there at the plant for 40 years, who could do anything. There was never a challenge that was something they couldn't overcome. And we would consistently have issues around rail as safety issues. We had folks that got killed. We had just day in and day out operational issues, not knowing when a train's going to show up for several days on end. And that leads to all sorts of headaches. If you can't count on a critical part of your process, like your raw materials, to come in on time, that changes a lot of things. And they would look at that and just kind of shrug their shoulders and say, hey, railroad's going to do what a railroad's going to do. And that just blew my mind. Okay. They'd never turned down a challenge before. So, so then I left and went to WashU, and I got interested in entrepreneurship. I got interested in technology. And I started understanding IoT, artificial intelligence, blockchain, distributed ledger technology more. And I thought, there's a lot of things that we can make a little bit smarter, a little bit safer out there in the rail yard and in rail shipping for some folks, if we just apply these technologies to those. So that's kind of where Hum came about.
Yeah, that's great. I saw the participants list earlier. I saw one of the people that are dialed in here today that are from WashU Entrepreneur School. That's probably pretty proud of you. So, Cliff,
well, we'll do all we can not to give the school a bad name here. So we'll try to hold our own.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so let's dig into the technology of Hum a little bit. So what is the basic premise and how does it work?
Yeah, so we kind of have a couple components, and these aren't groundbreaking, these aren't earth shattering. Many other industries have adopted them, but there's a black hole called the rail industry that hasn't yet. That's relying on third data infrastructure to really manage their information flow. So first, we provide a wireless network at the rail car. So we have a way of being able to get data off the rail car and get it into the cloud where it's accessible, and do that cost effectively. And second, that then creates a modular system where we can plug and play different types of devices, different types of sensors that can pull data from the environment, temperature, vibration, impact, GPS, and we can take all that then. Now that we have that wireless network, we can take all that information to the cloud. And so our solution starts with the gateway unit that does GPS tracking, and that's got the cellular modem in it. So that allows us to then, through cellular communication, get in the cloud. And then we have other specialized devices that monitor different parts or components of the rail car, like the wheels and the bearings, the rail track. Actually, we can pick up bad spots of rail track through these devices, and you can have live track condition monitoring. We've got a safety solution that monitors a particular pneumatic valve on certain types of rail cars. And we're doing things in the brake system, brake monitoring, performance monitoring. It leaks from tank cars. Those are a big issue. So you can start to see as we kind of continue to build out our product portfolio, we'll have all these different types of devices that can kind of solve some chronic issues for particular folks.
Yeah, that's great. And so when you started all this, you didn't really or maybe I don't want to speak for you, but you really didn't have a sense of how geospatial technologies and data could contribute to your overall product. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. I had no idea what we could do with it, right? I knew that we had GPS tracking, we had live tracking, we do 10-minute pings, so you can actually know where your rail cars are at, which is a huge leap forward for most any company that's shipping on rail. But I didn't realize some of what we're exploring now, especially related to track monitoring and just the richness of data, if combining that with drone services, imagery analysis, being able to find grade changes. Yeah, there's a lot that we're just kind of scratching the surface on now that I think adds some extra layers of value for our customers.
Okay, well, I can retire now. I have one convert. So no, I mean that's really what we're trying to do here. We're trying to expose geospatial data and technologies across multiple industry clusters, to improve decision making and improve products and services. So I mean, I think it's fantastic that you're able to effectively integrate and connect with the right people to advance what you're trying to do. So good on you. So I guess, I know you were going full bore when we first met, and so then we hit this pandemic. So for your development and Hum Industrials, how has the pandemic affected you?
Yeah, at first I looked at everything that was happening, back in March, and I thought, hey, this is great. The trains are still running. The supply chain is not shut down. So in fact, it's become, even more prominent. This isn't going to hurt our business. And while it doesn't hurt the ability of our customers to really kind of pursue us and try to capture our technology, it is delayed a lot of things for us with from a sales side and sales development, not being able to visit customers, not being able to go to conferences. That's where most of our sales activities happen. But even on the product side, ever since we started feeling it in January when those first Chinese factories started closing, and even now we've got parts inventories, components that are just yo-yoing all over the place. We're getting 6 to 12 month lead times now in January 2021 from a variety of issues that are pandemic related. So it's kind of killing us on the product development side. And we're finally rolling out. We'll be installing some of our first devices here in a few weeks. But yeah, we're 6 to 9 months behind where we thought we would be this time last year. So it's been a challenge.
So I guess if we fast forward to December 2021, where do you hope to be with Hum and your technology?
Yeah, we're on track to have a big year. We should have about 20,000 cars under contract by the end of the year, primarily from our early group of adopters. We've got a lot of folks waiting on product and getting it in their hands and showing them what we can do with it. So pretty exciting to finally take some of our early pilot test data, our early lab data. A lot of our core technology and predictive maintenance has been developed over the last 15 years. So there's a lot of papers published about it. There's a lot of work that's been done already, but to finally show kind of a full complete system out there, it's pretty exciting. So we should be set up here for a good year.
Yeah. That'd be great. Hey, and so as far as your technology, and I know it's specifically identified for the rail industry, but the core and the components of your technology, is that translatable to other industries?
It is. We're a pure rail company for now. We're focused on freight and passenger rail. And there's a lot that we can do with that. I say we're an IoT company, Internet of Things company, but we're a Gen 2 IoT company. The Gen 1 companies, we're selling just a basic GPS tracker to about anyone who would buy it, and that moved across multiple industries. So we're going deep first rather than broad. But once we do start to get into adjacent markets, I mean, our core technology, mobile monitoring, predictive vibration and analysis of any rotating asset. These are things that can go into trucking, into automotive. We've already had conversations with some folks in both of those areas that there's some interest. Industrial equipment, pumps, motors, fans. That's actually quite a bit more in my wheelhouse than rail even though I did do a lot with rail at my time in ADM. So there's a lot that we can go there, and really at Hum, our vision is to integrate the supply chain, right? So once we make this data available, we want to help connect all the disparate parts of it. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us for sure as we kind of branch into different modes and different markets.
Yeah, and how big is Hum? I mean, as far as personnel.
So still just my partner and I, the only two full-time employees. We've run this pretty lean as we wanted to make sure everything checks out, and we've got you know, the right combination of tactics to go forward. But we have about 20 probably part-time contractors, or part-time and contract folks working in various aspects of product development and research and other things.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So you know, one of the things that we're trying to do here in St. Louis is obviously build an environment where we're kind of recognized as the geospatial center of excellence for the nation. And so you've been in this entrepreneur space a little while. Kind of what and it doesn't have to be on the geospatial side, but on the entrepreneurial side. What do you think we do well in this environment, and what things do you think would help either progress the entrepreneurial space or add value to it?
Yeah, I think this is one of the most underrated parts of St. Louis is the entrepreneurial ecosystem. That's what I tell most any other founder or CEO that I talk to in the startup world, is just how great it is, and that's one reason we've committed to being here long term. We were awarded an Arch grant. We hope to build our company here. We think there's just tremendous support. There's been no end of resources available that is just an arm's reach away for us as we've progressed over the last couple of years. Just tremendous help here. The capital is available, in St. Louis and in the Midwest in general. There's no reason not to build here. The biggest issue that I've seen or that we've had, and maybe this just comes from the specialized nature of what we're building and what we're looking for, is talent recruitment and trying to find people with the right skill sets. And I think that's well known and understood. I think there's some it sounds like there's some good things moving forward to build up expertise in even geospatial skill sets, software skill sets. We're looking for some very specialized stuff in hardware and embedded systems. But and maybe this is more of my my limitations in recruiting and trying to find some people, but that's been I think a bit of a roadblock for us, in trying to find some of this more highly developed talent.
No, I can appreciate that, and I can assure you that this community is working multiple avenues to establish a talent pipeline that can support multiple industry clusters. So I feel your pain. I know where you're at, but rest assured, I mean, there is a ton of effort in the works, and hopefully we can, if we can't recruit the talent, then we certainly need to focus and continue to focus on developing it. So you certainly appreciate those comments. So what, there's always, we have the audience attending, and they're always looking to connect. So if there's anything that you could ask that you could, need help with, what would you ask for?
I mean, we're always looking to connect with potential customers, right? Railcar lessors, those that lease rail cars to the industry, shippers, anyone who ships product by rail. whether they own the actual rail car or not. There's quite a few industries here in St. Louis that utilize rail. We've got some great access to class ones here, and anyone working in the rail industry, railroads or OEM rail car manufacturers. Those connections always do a lot, if nothing more than to help us understand our customers better, right? And then beyond that, the mentorship from a technology perspective. There's Hum came about just understanding what's already out there, what's been built, and the opportunities and limitations with that. There's a lot of fast-moving, rapidly developing technology that we want to integrate into our products. And so anyone in the geospatial field, embedded systems engineering, advanced analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, we incorporate all that in our products. So and all this stuff is not what my degree's in chemical engineering, remember, right? I can tell you about reaction kinetics and separations and such. This is stuff I'm learning on the fly. So anyone who does have experience or connections with those sort of folks, always interested in talking with them.
Yeah, and I'm sure if anybody is online from U.S. Transportation Command or has some connections over there, I'm sure that would be a benefit to Byron. So, all right, before I turn it over to the audience to ask questions, we never let anybody off the stage without learning more about what they do in their free time when they're not grinding on their startup. And so, what can we find Byron Porter doing in the off hours?
Well, I don't know if there really are off hours, but fortunately, I've got a family, a wonderful wife and two boys who keep me grounded a bit. That I spend, at least try to spend anytime I'm not working on Hum with them. I think we've got some plans to go launch some rockets here tomorrow. That will hopefully help them. Unfortunately, they already got the preconditions of being engineers themselves. They're very, very much into Legos and such. So I think the curse continues. But other than that, I enjoy running, soccer. Always up for anything. So I don't know. That doesn't seem to get a lot of attention these days, but it's mostly Hum.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So, well, first of all, I want to thank you for not only contributing to the geospatial ecosystem here and affording me the opportunity to talk to you and understand your technology here at T-Rex, but also for sitting in on our panel today, educating our ecosystem to what you're doing and how you're doing. I'm certainly excited that you took a technology and now are integrating geospatial data and technologies to make it even better. So that's super exciting to me, and it's appreciative of Arch Grants for giving you this grant and allow you to continue this this development, which is so important to the industry. So with that, I'll quit babbling and open it up for any questions or comments. I don't know, BJ, are you going to open up the mics?
Yeah, we've got a few typed in here already. You kind of touched upon this a little bit with manufacturing start of January, but can you go kind of how you began the prototyping of your devices?
Yeah, but the prototyping really began more than a year and a half ago, I guess, when I threw $100 at a couple college students and said, "What can you do with this?" I had absolutely no idea what on earth I was even really approaching, and it kind of started with that, and it's kind of grown from there. So we're on our third iteration of our core product, and we've got our second revision of those boards just rolling off the line here next week. And so what started with just first some college students in the engineering school at WashU, and then with some contractors trying to figure out what was possible. We've kind of come quite a way since then.
Great. And we have another question. Is there any software development or embedded development skill sets that you're specifically looking for?
Yeah, the biggest thing for us is finding someone who's competent or have some experience and familiarity with a wireless protocol called LoRa. And I can't remember what that stands for, LoRa. It is, you could think of it as an alternative to Bluetooth. It operates on a different end of the spectrum, but it's critical for our system to function. Bluetooth doesn't work in our environment. It doesn't work around a rail car, long range. It has several limitations, unfortunately, because it is much cheaper and easier to find, and there's a lot more people who have developed with it. So that's the hardest thing for us to find are embedded systems engineers who are familiar with LoRa. Other than that, just the normal kind of IoT skill sets and being able to write an I2C, UART, PCB design and board bring up and those sorts of things are kind of what we look for.
Okay. I have a question from myself. This wasn't submitted from the audience. I have a personal, kind of touchy, don't mean to make this emotional. My wife's she lost her sister in a rail accident. Yeah, I know you mentioned safety issues. I know this wouldn't be necessarily priority for your company necessarily, but since you mentioned safety issues, could you talk a little bit about how your technology could help save lives in rail accident issues like this?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to hear about that too, BJ. That's pretty tragic, and I spent a lot of time working on personnel safety when I was at a manufacturing plant. This goes back to my first month in charge of an $8 million project, and I was barely a year out of school, and I had one of my contractors. I had about 70 contractors I was overseeing. One of them pulled down a 25-pound beam trolley, which you use to move on a steel beam overhead, right on his fingers, and broke them, and of like 10 feet from me. And ever since then, I've been pretty interested in trying to make it a little bit safer for folks working in an environment where there's known hazards. And the first product idea that I had for HUM was a more indication in the rail yard as where rail cars were at. In 2016 at ADM, we had 2 fatalities from people who got either pinched by or crushed by rail cars in the rail yard, just normal daily activity. And it's a shame that still happens today, and that's not uncommon. And there's ways that we can change that. And so one thing that we will be doing long term is creating a live digital map. And this is kind of step, and we've talked with several of the large railroads about this. And this is in fact is where that sub-meter accuracy that I've been searching for, Mark, is leading to, where you can have automated rail yards. So you can get folks out of there and away from rail cars, because they are very dangerous, and people don't realize just how dangerous they are. And so by providing GPS tracking on rail cars, you can know exactly where rail cars are at and where they're moving at any point in time. That was the original idea for HUM, was to provide that visibility in the rail yard, so that you don't have, so everyone in the rail yard can have a tablet with them, and they can see exactly what cars are moving. And so no one's caught by surprise, as what happened with those 2 fatalities. So that's near and dear to my heart. We're going to do everything we can to try and make rail safer in that respect. And so that's kind of a big part of us where we want to go.
Yeah, having a common operational picture is as important for military intelligence as it is for rail safety. But having everybody seeing the same thing at the same time is essential. So,
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? I see Kathleen Klein has raised her hand.
All right.
This is cool. I haven't done that yet. Sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Byron, I had to walk away for 1 second, so I'm hoping you didn't already say this, but I'm interested in, and I'm kind of going backwards because I didn't know much about what you're doing until really like now. This is when I've learned the most about the company. And so I'm sort of going backwards in my mind, like, well, this automatically sounds like a geospatial concept, right? And I'm like, how could you have come up with this kind of without that application in mind? So I guess what I'm a little interested in is like, and again, I apologize if you've already said this, but when did like the light bulb kind of go off that, you know, you're seeing all the stuff, you know, bubbling up in St. Louis and in T-Rex about geospatial tech? When did that, what was that moment where you realized like, this is applicable to what I'm doing? I guess that's really my question.
Yeah. So one of the early things we wanted to do, you know, talking about our safety use case, one of the ones after that then was tracking of rail cars, right? And because right now you have, if you're a shipper, you have no idea where your rail cars are at. You get a snapshot that's 24 hours late, like every day, and so it's as good as useless. And there's a lot of frustration in the industry, and there's a lot of reasons for that I won't get into right here. But being able to provide predictive ETAs on when your train is going to show up or your rail cars are going to show up, that was pretty early on. Now, up until when I met Mark here, I think a little more than a year ago, and it started trying to explore what geospatial was and what we could do with it, you know, trying to understand what the tools were out there for geospatial. You know, I still, you know, I saw a lot of pieces, and I knew that we could kind of put some things together, but I still didn't know what the value was long term. Now we've got some really exciting stuff developing, and this is primarily a use case for railroads. I've actually got a call with a European railroad here this week, and talking more about what they're doing with it. But now combined with our sensor data, where we can get live tracking of the actual rail track, we can get a live condition monitoring as hundreds of rail cars move over the same track with our sensors. We can put together some another layer of data that's pretty interesting with some of the imagery analysis that you can get from a drone. And we've got some of the biggest railroads here in North America that are interested in this. We've got some conversations set up with them, and even that I think is still just scratching the surface really on what we can do. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting going forward once we have some new data sets coming in, and we have at least we get more familiar with some of what's offered, especially like through folks like Esri. Of what we can kind of pull out once the data then becomes available, because that's what we bring to the table and no one else has then, is that kind of live mobile railcar monitoring data, mobile track monitoring data that doesn't currently exist, and you can't get from even just satellite or drone imagery.
Hey, Byron, along those lines, I mean, being able to tell where these rail cars are at any time and whether they met their delivery site, I mean, wouldn't that also be a huge advantage to the insurance companies that end up paying off, you know, for, you know, potentially fraudulent claims that, hey, the rail car didn't show up and deliver the product, and, you know, sometimes it's, you know, instead of backtracking through that, sometimes they just pay it off.
There are massive inefficiencies all through the system, and you're hitting on one of them. And it's fortunate one of our investors is a veteran in the insurance industry, and he's very familiar with some of these. It's shocking, but you know, very prominent industrial companies lose rail cars for 6 months or more, and have no idea where they actually are in the country. They could be full of product. And sometimes that product could be dangerous. And nobody knows, the more dangerous stuff has to be, I think, have some sort of monitoring on it, but there's still a lot of valuable product out there that no one knows where it's at. And so then, do the insurance claims come through, and how is that taken care of? One of the big issues in the rail industry, and this is kind of between railroads and shippers, is something called demurrage. And that's where you have, say, a railroad asset. You have a rail car owned by the railroad you're moving product in, you pay for that, right? And the railroads, to run an efficient network, they charge you money for every day that you hold on to that past a certain point in time. And so you can imagine disputes on, was this actually set in at that time, or was it not? What time was it actually set in? Because the time of day matters too. Well, we can then digitize all that. You have an automatic record, and this is maybe where some things with distributed ledger technology get interesting. You can create automated transactions on these, and you eliminate the massive back office work that I've heard some people have 15, 20 people working on this stuff, just auditing bills and chasing papers back and forth and such. Geospatial solves that, right? You have a geofence trigger, you know exactly when that rail car enters that rail yard. You have a timestamp associated with it. It's irrefutable, and everybody's agreed with it. So there's some maybe less sexy, but very interesting things that we can do with this.
Okay, any other questions or comments from
Speaking of
the audience?
our last question in the Q&A here is, Mark, why haven't you asked Austin Powers any questions?
He's actually pretty boring. He doesn't say a lot, but he looks good. So anyway.
Right, I don't see any further questions. If anyone has any last call to get them in. Otherwise, I dropped Mark's email in the chat there. Pretty easy, mark@downtownTrex.org. So if you ever think of anything after the fact, feel free to email us, and we can help you. Yeah,
and I guess with that, Byron, how can people get a hold of you if they have any follow-ups with you or want to connect you with people you need connected to?
Yeah, you can email me at byron@humindustrial.com or check our website, humindustrial.com. We got phone number and email in there too. So feel free to reach out. And again, if we can be a help at all as well, as a technology resource or anything to do with rail supply chain or even industrial manufacturing, always happy to be a sounding board and answer questions for folks.
All right. We appreciate it again, Byron. And thanks again to Arch Grants for the Geospatial Awards this year. We'll continue to highlight them. This is a great initiative, and they're part of the Geospatial Innovation Center, and we're blessed to have them. So one public service announcement before we end. So you'll see in the coming weeks, T-Rex and Cortex have collaborated on an effort to bring a bigger spotlight on geospatial at a national level. So we're actually starting a speaker series that's going to be called Geo Innovations, and the whole idea, the intent is twofold. One, to bring the two innovation centers to collaborate together, and secondly, to bring open up that aperture a little bit on all of the good activities that are taking place in St. Louis. So we thought we'd start out with this national speaker series, and so right out of the gate, and February 3rd, we're going to have Dr. Chris Tucker, who is the chairman of the American Geographic Society, and I know in March we're going to have Tony Frazier, CEO of Maxar. So a lot of we have the speakers lined up through August right now, and I think you'll really be impressed, and I think it's a great opportunity having T-Rex and Cortex collaborate on something. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to you all being back next month. And again, one final thank you to you, Byron. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mark.
All right. We are over and out.